Ubisoft looks to have a big winner with the release of Tom Clancy's The Division and Far Cry Primal, which are two of the biggest games of 2016 and by far the two open world games to keep your eye on this season. In this video, I'll be comparing The Division and Far Cry Primal and which game you should be more excited for. Now, the lead up to both games have been completely opposite. The Division was originally announced back in E3 of 2013 before the PS4 and Xbox One were even released, and initially it seemed like the entire gaming world was buzzing about the game and it looked to be one of the best games on the next generation platform. However, after multiple delays and an obvious visual downgrade, hype has clearly diminished by quite a bit. Far Cry Primal, on the other hand, almost came out of left field. The PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One had already seen a Far Cry game in Far Cry 4, and most would think the next game wouldn't be released for at least a few years. Well, Far Cry Primal was announced, which seems to be a stopgap game between Far Cry 4 and the eventual Far Cry 5. While the hype for Far Cry Primal isn't as big as the hype was for The Division during its initial announcement due to the quick turnaround between the announcement of the game and its release, it seems like people are starting to take notice of Far Cry Primal, where with The Division, people have begun to forget about it. Now, while The Division and Far Cry Primal are both open world games, they are starkly different games. Far Cry Primal being set in the Stone Age and being a single-player open world game, whereas The Division is set in mid-crisis New York while having a very big focus on its multiplayer. Far Cry Primal is shaking up the Far Cry formula a bit with the complete removal of the traditional gunplay in favor of what would be typical in the Stone Age with things like spears, clubs, axes, etc. The player will also be able to control animals, so there is quite a bit of change being implemented into the latest Far Cry game. At the end of the day though, this is still Far Cry and things like the engine and a lot of the gameplay elements are being retained. Fans that enjoyed Far Cry but have felt the game to be getting a bit stale will probably really enjoy Far Cry Primal, and it may revitalize the franchise. However, on the other side you have The Division, which is the far more interesting game. Not to say that it will be a better game, but it's exciting to see Ubisoft attempt to create a very ambitious game. And while the delays and the graphical downgrade probably means something pretty bad for the game, it's going to be great to see The Division finally be released. For those of you that don't know, The Division is an open-world third-person shooter with RPG elements. The game has Diablo-like looting, cover-based third-person shooting, all in an open-world and MMO setting. The game is trying to accomplish quite a bit, and there's a big chance that this game is going to completely fall flat on its face. The Division actually reminds me a lot of The Crew, which was also developed by Ubisoft, in that it's a very ambitious game, but in the case of The Crew, the game was kind of a flop. Hopefully The Division doesn't turn out the same way. Out of the two games, if you want the safe pick and go with a game that's almost guaranteed to be a very good game, go with Far Cry Primal. But if you want to go with the game that's going to mark a pivotal point for Ubisoft and the game that is far more risky and unknown, go with The Division. What do you guys think? Are you going to pick up The Division? Are you going to pick up Far Cry Primal? Are you going to pick up both of them, or are you going to pick up neither of them? Comment your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.